And we've got now a guest joining us from the US. We have Mr. Yogi Chugh. He's a Fremont community leader joining us from California. Good evening to you here from Delhi. Mr. Chugh, what do you make of, first of all, the way the PM has come to the US this time around, and he has a special connect with the Indian diaspora, the Indian community there, and that was unmistakable this evening as well. Evening here, of course, and there, of course, it's a bright, sunshiny day.
It is a bright, sunshiny day, and coming out of the Coliseum, we're now just at the end of the event. But I'll tell you, in comparison to some of the other events that the Prime Minister has done with the diaspora and the community, this event was historic in the sense that he's come back after his third term in office. And clearly, it's a new India. And the aspirational India and the opportunities that he's talked about clearly put front and center why this visit was important. Many of us in the United States have always felt that the U.S.-India partnership is a very consequential partnership. It's the people to people. Just hearing about the great successes and the great strides that India is making to address income inequality, ensuring that the woman worker and tribal villages are able to sustain career paths, leading on drones, leading on manufacturing, becoming an net export provider of phones, and the aspirational goal that one day an Indian-made semiconductor is going to come onto America was just a profoundly strong message for some of us who claim India as our country of origin, now living this America. It was a mesmerizing moment, a moment of great pride for all of us.
Yes, certainly, and it's been several moments of great pride. If you look at the way that this trip has started with that bilateral meeting with President Biden in Delaware at his own home, and then the Quad summit as well. How do you see the progression of India-US relations, particularly during the last 10 years through the two terms of Prime Minister Modi, and now, although President Biden is, some would say he's a lame duck president now, but still working very hard to ensure that India and US keep growing their partnership for the benefit of not just these two countries, but the entire world?
Undeniably, many people in the United States, whether it's elected officials or whether it's State Department officials or NSA, National Security, they've always talked about the consequential nature of the U.S.-India partnership, how it will be a defining partnership of the 21st century. India has come of age. Through G20, what we saw was India provided a voice to the African Union. It has also provided a voice to the Indo-Pacific. And then this onset of the Quad relationship now is just, in a very significant way, going to impact the region. The China hegemon is real. And having a friendly ally like India to obviously come back and focus on the areas such as climate, water, energy, nuclear energy, space, and even this opportunity of really focusing on ISET, the critical emerging technologies and critical minerals, is a unique opportunity. So the Quad was obviously something that happened on the sidelines, and President Biden has always been very bullish on the relationship. What I think Prime Minister Modi has successfully done, on the international stage, he has proven that he's a statesman. He's able to forge coalitions. He's able to lead. And while his aspirations are for India, he recognizes the role India has to play in the world, especially on climate. I believe that he has very forcefully said that war is not the solution. And clearly from a position of strength, when Prime Minister Modi now sits and talks, he sits on a table of people who believe in the potential of what India has to offer to the world economy, the world geopolitical scene, and the very nuance of the 21st century. So I think that that's really what it is. We are in the midst of a presidential election, and people often ask me, do you think a Democrat president is better, or do you think a Republican president is better for the Indian American community? And I come back and say, well, the people of the United States will decide, but irrespective of whoever becomes the president, the strategic relationship of India is no longer a relationship of convenience. It is now a relationship in which India is seen as an indispensable partner. So that's really where I think America is bullish on this partnership, long beyond Prime Minister Modi stays in office. And it is going to be a very significant partnership over the next 20, 30 years.
Oh, yes. It's just that at this point of time, people are preoccupied. You mentioned the elections that are coming up in just about 6 weeks now. There's, of course, the Anga also taking place in New York, where there's a lot of preoccupation with what's been happening in the Middle East, apart from what's been happening in Ukraine, in Syria, and so many other places where extreme weather is also playing havoc, really, from in all parts of the world. So at this juncture, the kind of meetings that the PM has been having in the US, particularly when he addressed the Summit of the Future, do you think that would also be something that will come onto center stage because the world really needs to pay attention to that as well?
The world is paying attention. The visit of Prime Minister Modi to Russia and then the visit to Ukraine did not go unnoticed. And certainly as a part of the BRICS bilateral, there were conversations about the efforts that happened. And many people have said the solution will no longer happen on the battlefield. I think Prime Minister Modi has demonstrated to the world that he has the ability to build relationships with world leaders. And it's something that he's extended term over term. And along with Minister of External Affairs Jay Shankar, I think India has clearly ensured that in the context of the critical decisions on the global stage, India will have a voice. In many aspects, India will be the nudge that helps forge solutions. And I think that's really a remarkable situation for India to be in.
Yes. The other front, of course, is that of progress altogether in terms of which is being driven these days by technology. This is the digital age, the age of AI. Prime Minister mentioned today Indian and American and the India-America spirit as well. But a lot of focus in these engagements that the PMs had, particularly with President Biden, on the technology front, semiconductors, a watershed moment really, something completely unprecedented, a fab which will be set up through a collaboration between the Indian defense sector as well as the American in India. That is something that is quite amazing. How do you see this being taken forward as well?
You know, the emerging and critical emerging technologies and INDESX has been a strategic opportunity. Business interest groups have focused on that. India, through the G engines that was able to get, has really enabled us to ensure that India becomes a regional player with all of the things that are needed. And from that regard, I think what has happened is that the Indo-Pacific has now become a very critical space in which the China hegemon Israel and understands that India has a very unique role to play in this. On one hand, with the China influence growing back to the debt trap, India, on the other hand, has looked back at the region and saying we all have to uplift each other because a stronger region is good for the global threats that we face with. So that's really what I think is happening, and that is clearly where we're going to bet the future on. And that's really something that I think the Prime Minister clearly made. And when he talked about Micron opening up its first semiconductor plant, and he talked about the fact that it very well may be that once we design these chips, one day those chips may actually be coming to American shores. That's a very profound statement, a very critical thing. Post-COVID, we saw how the supply chains created havoc and destruction in the global markets. Being able to come back, and as America looks to bring manufacturing back to the United States, it needs to focus on friendshoring. Healthy and vibrant democracies like India, able to have the talent and the pool to focus on this, clearly enables the US and India to work as allies on some of the common issues that we face in the world. And I think India will always have a seat at the table when it comes to the global issues and the challenges we're facing today and tomorrow.
Another significant announcement that the Prime Minister made was that India will pretty soon have 2 more consulates. I think there are 5 already, counting the embassy in as well. But now pretty soon there will be 7 new ones coming up in Boston and LA. How significant is that, considering that India and the US have a huge partnership in terms of education? A lot of Indian students go to America, not just to study, perhaps even find jobs, although that has become an electoral issue, the way America, a large part of America now looks at the issue of migration.
It's huge. You know, I often said this, that the Indo-US partnership is a consequential partnership of the 21st century. But the people to people is so important. Today, the Prime Minister talked about the universities that are being opened up in India, and he talked about some statistics about how many IITs and how many IIMs and how many ITIs are being opened. The new world of skilling enables that. Some of the greatest institutions, our Ivy League colleges, are coming back and building campuses in India. So when you have this large, vibrant Indian American diaspora with roots to India and many more people planning to go, the current consulates are basically overwhelmed with the sheer magnitude of not only processing of passports and visas and OCI cards, but international students and travelers and business visas that are now coming back. So opening up another consulate in Boston and opening up a second consulate in Los Angeles, I think will clearly make the expediency of all of these things critical and helpful to be able to ensure the travel to India back and forth. Now we just have to ensure the visas and the L1Bs that are sometimes often needed as well can work with their local counterparts to ensure the business travel is made easy for not only students, but business travelers as well.
Well, certainly that is something that would be, I'm sure, actively looked at as well. Thank you so much for joining us from Fremont, California, Mr. Chugh, talking about Prime Minister Modi, his visit to the US, and particularly the